What happens when Hollywood's most beloved actress walks onto one of daytime television's biggest stages, only to be met with hostility, condescension, and a complete lack of respect? In just 44 seconds, one question from Sunny Hostin would ignite a firestorm that would see Jennifer Lawrence storm off the view, set in what can only be described as one of the most shocking moments in talk show history. The atmosphere in the studio that morning seemed normal enough. The audience was buzzing with excitement. Jennifer Lawrence, fresh off her latest film release, walked onto the stage with her trademark smile and down-to-earth energy that fans have come to love. She waved to the crowd, took her seat, and the interview began. The lights were bright, the cameras were rolling, and everyone in that studio expected this to be just another pleasant promotional appearance. Whoopi Goldberg started things off with a warm welcome. "We are so excited to have you here today. Your new movie is getting incredible reviews. The critics are loving it. Audiences are loving it. You must be thrilled." Jennifer smiled genuinely, settling into her chair with that natural ease she was known for. "Thank you so much for having me. I'm really proud of this project and the team I got to work with. We spent months preparing for this, and to see it resonate with people the way it has is just incredible. It feels like all that hard work paid off." Joy Behar chimed in next, her voice friendly and curious. "You've been in this industry for quite some time now. You've achieved so much at such a young age. How do you keep yourself grounded with all the fame and attention? That can't be easy." I think it's about surrounding yourself with good people," Jennifer said, her voice warm and thoughtful. "My family keeps me humble. They're the first ones to tell me when I'm being ridiculous or getting too big for my britches. My friends from back home don't treat me any differently than they did before all of this. They still make fun of me, still call me out when I need it. I think that's really important. When you have people in your life who knew you before the fame, they help you remember who you really are." The conversation flowed naturally for the first few minutes. Sarah Haynes asked about the preparation for her role, wanting to know about the physical and emotional training involved. Jennifer spoke enthusiastically about the research she did, the people she met, the experiences that shaped her understanding of the character. Alyssa Farah Griffin wanted to know about working with the director, about the creative process on set. Jennifer lit up talking about the collaboration, the way the director encouraged improvisation, the trust they built together. Everything seemed pleasant and professional. The audience was engaged, laughing at Jennifer's anecdotes, clearly enjoying the conversation. But then Sunny Hostin leaned forward in her chair, and the temperature in the room shifted. You could feel it. The energy changed. Something in Sunny's posture, in the set of her jaw, signaled that what was coming next was different. "Jennifer," Sunny began, her tone already carrying an edge that made the audience go quiet. The friendly chatter stopped. People leaned in. "I want to talk about something that I think is really important. You've been very vocal about certain political issues over the years. We've seen you speak out, use your platform. But I've noticed you haven't spoken much about other issues, equally important issues. Why is that? What determines which causes get your attention and which ones don't?" Jennifer paused, clearly taken off guard by the sudden shift in tone and topic. Her smile faded slightly. "Well, I try to speak up about things I'm educated on and passionate about. Things I've taken the time to really understand. I don't think it's responsible to comment on everything without understanding the full context. I think that does more harm than good, actually." Sunny's expression hardened. Her eyes narrowed. "But don't you think that with your platform, with millions of people following your every word, you have a responsibility to use your voice for all marginalized communities? Not just the ones that are convenient for you, not just the ones that are popular or safe?" The other hosts exchanged glances. Whoopi shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Joy's eyebrows went up. Sarah looked down at her notes. The audience went completely silent. You could hear people breathing. Jennifer took a breath, maintaining her composure. Her voice remained steady, but you could see her processing this unexpected attack. I don't think it's about convenience. I really don't. Mattesaitichin, I think it's about being authentic and not performative. I'd rather speak genuinely about issues I understand, issues I've educated myself on, than just say things to check boxes or because someone thinks I should. That feels dishonest to me. That sounds like a cop-out to me, Sunny shot back, her voice rising slightly, an accusatory edge creeping in. You have millions of followers. You have influence that most people could only dream of. And you're choosing to stay silent on critical issues affecting people's lives every single day. People who don't have a voice. People who need allies. And you're sitting here telling me it's about authenticity? Joy tried to interject, her voice cautious. Sunny, maybe we should... But Sunny continued, cutting her off with a wave of her hand. No, I think this is important. I think we need to talk about this. We have celebrities who come on here all the time, wanting to promote their movies, wanting our audience to support them, buy tickets, stream their content. But when it comes time to actually stand up for something meaningful, something that might be uncomfortable or controversial, they hide behind excuses about being educated or authentic or not wanting to be performative. Jennifer's face flushed. You could see her jaw tighten. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm trying to be responsible with my platform. I take that responsibility seriously. I don't think attacking someone for not speaking on every single issue is fair or productive. There are so many issues in the world. No one person can speak on all of them with equal authority or understanding. Attacking? Sunny laughed, but there was no humor in it. It was cold, dismissive. I'm holding you accountable. There's a difference. Maybe that's uncomfortable for you. Maybe you're not used to being questioned like this. But accountability is supposed to be uncomfortable. That's how growth happens. Alyssa tried to jump in, her voice diplomatic. I think what Jennifer is saying is that there's value in speaking authentically about issues you've really taken the time to understand rather than... Sunny turned to Alyssa sharply, her voice cutting. I'm not finished. I'm speaking to Jennifer right now. The tension was suffocating now. Cameras captured every second, every facial expression, every shift in body language. The audience sat frozen, unsure if they should be watching this, if this was part of the show or something else entirely. This was not normal daytime television banter. This was not friendly debate. This was real conflict unfolding live, raw, and uncomfortable. Jennifer leaned forward, her voice steady, but you could hear the emotion building underneath, the hurt starting to show through. I came here to talk about my work, to talk about a film that I poured my heart into for months. A story that means something to me and to the people who made it with me. And instead, I'm being interrogated about why I haven't spoken about specific issues that you've decided I should speak about. Issues you've determined are the right ones, the important ones. Because it matters, Sunny insisted, her voice growing louder, more passionate, more aggressive. It matters to the people who look up to you. It matters to the communities who need allies. It matters to people who are suffering while you stay silent. But I guess your comfort, your desire to only talk about your movie, is more important than their struggles. More important than using your privilege to help people who don't have your advantages. That was the line, and you could see it in Jennifer's eyes. The moment something snapped. The moment the hurt turned to anger. My comfort? Jennifer's voice was incredulous now, louder than before. You don't know anything about my comfort. You don't know what I deal with privately. You don't know what conversations I have, what causes I support behind the scenes, what organizations I give to, what work I do that isn't plastered all over social media for people to see. You're sitting here making assumptions about who I am as a person based on what I haven't posted on Instagram or Twitter? That's your measure of someone's character? Whoopi tried again, her voice firmer this time. Ladies, let's take a breath here. Let's step back for a second. But neither woman was listening now. The confrontation had taken on a life of its own. Sunny doubled down, refusing to back off. If you're doing so much behind the scenes, then why not talk about it? Why not use your massive platform to amplify those voices, to bring attention to causes that desperately need it? Unless, of course, you're not actually doing anything, and this is just another excuse, another way to avoid responsibility. Are you calling me a liar? Jennifer's voice cut through the studio like a knife. Sharp, direct, angry. I'm saying your silence speaks volumes, Sunny replied coldly, her arms crossing over her chest. Your silence tells people where your priorities are, what you really care about. Sarah Haynes looked absolutely mortified. Her mouth was slightly open, her eyes wide. Joy had her hand over her mouth, shaking her head slightly. The producers in the control room were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial, their voices coming through the host's earpieces, but no one was responding to them. Jennifer stood up slowly from her chair. The movement was deliberate, controlled, but you could see her hands shaking. The microphone pack on her waist became visible as she reached to remove it. I'm not going to sit here and be accused of not caring about people, of being selfish or privileged, because I don't perform activism the way you think I should. Because I don't share every charitable donation, or every private conversation, or every moment of education I pursue. Oh, so now you're running away. Sunny's voice dripped with disdain, with contempt. Of course you are. How very privileged of you. You can just leave when things get uncomfortable. When someone asks you hard questions, you can just walk away. A lot of people don't have that luxury. A lot of people have to face hard truths every single day and can't just leave. Jennifer stopped removing her microphone and turned to look directly at Sunny. Her eyes were blazing now, her voice shaking with emotion. You know what's actually privileged? Sitting in your chair on national television with your platform and your paycheck and attacking someone who came here as a guest. You invited me here. I didn't demand to be on this show. I was invited, and I didn't ask to be ambushed with your moral superiority, with your judgment about how I choose to live my life and use my voice. The audience gasped audibly. Several people put their hands to their mouths. This was uncharted territory. Nothing like this had ever happened on The View before. Sunny stood up too now, her voice rising to match Jennifer's intensity, matching her passion with anger. Moral superiority? That's what you're calling this? I'm asking you basic questions about using your platform for good, about being an ally to communities that need voices like yours. If that feels like an attack to you, if basic accountability feels like moral superiority, maybe you need to examine why. Maybe you need to look at yourself and ask why being questioned makes you so defensive. You're not asking questions, Jennifer fired back, her voice shaking now with anger and hurt, with frustration and pain. You're making accusations. You're painting me as some selfish, uncaring person who doesn't give a damn about anyone else. You're trying to make me look bad on your show in front of your audience. For what? Ratings? To make yourself look like some great champion of justice? To score points? Whoopi finally stood up, her voice commanding, authoritative. Okay, we need to stop this right now. Right now. This has gone too far. But Sunny wasn't done. She couldn't seem to stop herself. I'm trying to have a real conversation about accountability, about responsibility, but clearly that's too much to ask from someone who lives in a Hollywood bubble. So as someone who's so disconnected from real people's real problems that she can't even see her own privilege. A Hollywood bubble? Jennifer's laugh was bitter, almost a sob. You're on a talk show that pays you millions of dollars to give your opinions every day. You sit at this table with your co-hosts and your studio audience and your cameras, and you judge people. You think you're not in a bubble? You think you're connected to real people's problems? You're performing right now just as much as you're accusing me of not performing enough. Joy tried one more time, her voice almost pleading. Can we all just take a moment? Can we please just breathe and... Jennifer shook her head vigorously, her hands trembling as she finally unclipped her microphone, the wire falling away. No, I'm done. I'm sorry, but I'm done. I don't need this. I don't deserve this. Sunny crossed her arms tighter, her stance defiant. Of course you are done. Of course you're leaving. Walk away. That's what people with privilege do when they're challenged, when they're uncomfortable, when they're asked to be better. You don't know me, Jennifer said, her voice breaking now, tears visible in her eyes. You don't know anything about me. You don't know what I've been through in my life. You don't know what I believe, or what I do, or what keeps me up at night. And honestly, you clearly don't care to know. You didn't want to have a conversation. You just wanted someone to attack today, and I was sitting here, so I was convenient. Alyssa spoke softly, almost pleading, reaching out slightly as if to stop her. Jennifer, please don't go. Please. We can talk about this. We can have a real conversation if everyone just calms down. But Jennifer was already moving toward the edge of the set, her microphone clutched in her hand, her other hand wiping at her eyes. I came here to talk about art, about storytelling, about something I created with people I care about deeply, a project that means the world to me. And instead, I got ambushed by someone who decided, before I even sat down, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't doing enough, that I was the problem. Sunny scoffed, the sound echoing in the silent studio. Oh, please, you're not the victim here. Don't play the victim card. Jennifer turned back one more time, and the pain in her eyes was visible even from the back of the studio audience. And tears were streaming down her face now, her voice breaking with every word. I never said I was a victim. I'm not playing any card, but I am a human being. I'm a person with feelings and experiences and struggles you know nothing about. And I deserve basic respect, which you clearly have no intention of showing me. You made that clear from the moment you started this line of questioning. The cameras followed her as she walked off the set, her shoulders shaking. You could hear Whoopi trying to regain control, her voice strained. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. But the microphones picked up Sunny's voice, still defiant, still convinced she was right. If she can't handle a real conversation, if she can't handle being held accountable, maybe she shouldn't do interviews. Maybe she should stay in her bubble. Sarah Haynes looked absolutely devastated, her voice sharp. Sunny, that was too much. That was way too much. Yet you crossed a line. No, it wasn't, Sunny insisted, her voice rising. Someone needed to say it. Someone needed to hold her accountable. Joy shook her head, her voice angry now, frustrated. There's a way to have these conversations, Sunny. There's a way to challenge people, to ask hard questions. That wasn't it. That was an attack. You attacked a guest on our show. The audience sat in stunned silence as the cameras finally cut. People were looking at each other, whispering, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Backstage, crew members stood frozen, watching monitors, watching as Jennifer Lawrence grabbed her belongings from her dressing room, thanked the producers with tears streaming down her face for inviting her, apologized repeatedly for the situation, even though it wasn't her fault, and walked straight out of the building without looking back. What was supposed to be a light promotional interview, a fun conversation about movies and creativity, had turned into a verbal battlefield. What should have been a pleasant 20 minutes of discussion about filmmaking and art had devolved into personal attacks and accusations and tears. And what could have been a moment of genuine dialogue about activism and responsibility and using platforms for good had instead become a masterclass in how not to treat a guest, how not to have difficult conversations, how not to be a host. The other hosts sat at the table in the commercial break, processing what had just happened, trying to figure out what to do next, how to salvage the show. Whoopi looked exhausted, her face drawn. Joy looked angry, her jaw set. Sarah looked sad, close to tears herself. Alyssa looked shocked, still trying to process what she'd witnessed. And Sunny sat with her arms still crossed, seemingly unmoved by the chaos she had created, the pain she had caused. "We have never had a guest walk off this show like that," Whoopi said quietly, speaking to Sunny directly now, her voice heavy with disappointment. "Never in all my years here. Not once. Do you understand what just happened? Do you understand what you just did?" Sunny's response was clipped, defensive. "Maybe we've been too soft on our guests then. Maybe we needed someone to actually ask the hard questions instead of just lobbing softballs and letting people promote their movies without any real substance." Joy's voice was sharp, cutting. "Soft? You think we're soft? We're supposed to be hosts, Sunny. We're supposed to make people feel welcome, create an environment where they can open up, ask thoughtful questions, and have real conversations. What you did wasn't tough questioning. It was hostile. It was mean. It was bullying." "I was holding her accountable," Sunny repeated, but there was a slight waver in her voice now, the tiniest crack in her certainty. "You were grandstanding," Sarah said softly, but firmly, her voice shaking slightly. "You weren't listening to her answers. You didn't care what she had to say. You just kept pushing and pushing, twisting everything she said, making her the villain in some story you'd already written in your head before she even sat down." Alyssa nodded vigorously, her voice gaining strength. She tried to explain her perspective multiple times. She tried to have a real conversation with you, and you shut her down every single time. You talked over her. You dismissed her. And that's not a conversation. That's not even a debate. That's an interrogation. That's a prosecution. The studio audience was still there, still in their seats, watching this all unfold, this breakdown behind the scenes. Some looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Others looked angry, shaking their heads. A few were whispering to each other, clearly processing what they had witnessed, what they'd been part of. This would be a story they'd tell for years. Sunny finally seemed to realize the weight of the moment, the gravity of what had happened. Her arms uncrossed slightly. "I was just trying to—" "You were trying to make a point," Whoopi interrupted, her voice hard. "And you did. You made your point very clear. But you also just humiliated a guest on our show. You made her feel attacked and unwelcome and small. You reduced her to tears. And now she's gone. She's out there somewhere, crying, hurt, probably questioning whether she did something wrong when she didn't. You did this." The silence that followed was deafening. It hung in the air like smoke. Back in the dressing room area, production assistants were buzzing, talking in hushed voices. This would be the clip that would dominate social media within minutes of the show airing. This would be the moment that people would talk about for weeks, months, maybe years. A beloved actress, even known for her authenticity and humor and down-to-earth nature, had been pushed to her breaking point by a host who seemed more interested in scoring points and looking righteous than having a genuine exchange, than treating another human being with basic decency. At the table, the hosts were trying to figure out how to proceed when they came back from commercial. "We still have 30 minutes of show left," a producer's voice came through their earpieces, urgent and stressed. "We need to figure out what we're doing." Whoopi took a deep breath, trying to center herself. "We'll address what happened when we come back. We owe the audience that much. We owe them honesty." Sunny started to speak, to defend herself again. I think you should listen for once," Joy snapped, her patience clearly gone, her voice louder than usual. "You just cost us a guest. You embarrassed this show. You hurt someone who didn't deserve it, who came here in good faith. So maybe right now, instead of talking, instead of defending yourself, you should just listen. Just for once." The commercial break ended. The lights came back up. The cameras came back on. Whoopi addressed the audience directly, her voice measured and professional, despite the emotional chaos of the previous minutes. despite everything that had just happened. As you all just witnessed, our interview with Jennifer Lawrence took an unexpected turn. Emotions ran very high, and our guest chose to leave the set. We want to acknowledge that what you saw was a real moment of conflict, a real moment of pain, and we take responsibility for how that unfolded on our stage. This is our show, our platform, and what happened here happened on our watch. Sunny sat silently, staring straight ahead, her expression unreadable, but her jaw tight. Joy added, her voice sincere, "We've always prided ourselves on having tough conversations on this show. We don't shy away from difficult topics. But there's a difference between tough and hostile. There's a difference between challenging someone and attacking them. And I think we crossed a line today. I think we forgot that our guest is a person, not just a celebrity to be interrogated." Sarah nodded, her voice soft but clear. Jennifer Lawrence is a talented actress and by all accounts a genuinely good person. She came here excited to talk about her work, and she deserved better than what happened here today. She deserved to be treated with respect and kindness, and I don't think that's what she got. Alyssa spoke carefully, choosing her words with precision. We hope that Jennifer knows that not everyone at this table felt that conversation was appropriate or fair. We hope she knows that some of us wish we had done more to stop what was happening, and we hope she's okay, wherever she is right now. The camera found Sunny's face, lingering there for a moment. She looked like she wanted to say something, her mouth opening slightly. But for once, whether by choice or by direction, she remained quiet, her lips pressed together. Whoopi wrapped up the segment, her voice heavy with the weight of the moment. We're going to move on with the show, but we wanted to address what happened honestly with you all, with everyone watching at home. Thank you for your understanding. These are real people having real conversations. And sometimes those conversations don't go the way we hope or plan. As the show continued with other segments, other topics, you could feel the shift in energy, the change in atmosphere. The chemistry between the hosts felt strained, forced. Every smile seemed tight. Every laugh seemed hollow. The audience seemed distracted, still processing, still thinking about what they'd seen. And somewhere outside that building, somewhere in the city, Jennifer Lawrence was probably sitting alone, trying to process what had just happened to her, trying to understand how a simple interview had become a nightmare. The cold opening had promised drama, and it had delivered in absolutely devastating fashion. 44 seconds was all it took for one question, one shift in tone, to spiral into a full-scale confrontation. One moment of hostility, one decision to attack rather than engage, to unravel what should have been a simple, enjoyable interview. One host's need to prove a point, to demonstrate her righteousness, to show her commitment to causes, had cost the show its guest and its dignity and its reputation for respectful discourse. What was meant to be promotion had become protection of self-worth, a defense of basic human dignity. What was intended as accountability had become an attack, a personal assault disguised as social consciousness. And what should have been a conversation, a genuine exchange of ideas and perspectives, so had become a cautionary tale about the importance of respect, empathy, and understanding, the profound difference between challenging someone and bullying them, between holding someone accountable and tearing them down on national television. The view would go on. The show would continue. Tomorrow would bring new guests, new topics, new conversations. But that day, in that studio, at that table, something broke that couldn't easily be repaired, and trust was shattered between hosts who were supposed to be a team. Professional boundaries were not just crossed, but obliterated, destroyed completely. And a guest who came in good faith, who trusted the show and its hosts, left in pain, in tears, feeling attacked and judged, and found wanting by someone who didn't even know her. Sunny Hostin had wanted to make a statement. She had wanted to show her audience that she wasn't afraid to ask hard questions, to hold people accountable, to demand more from those with platforms and privilege. And she succeeded in making a statement, in creating a moment that people would remember. But the statement she made wasn't about activism or accountability or using platforms for good. The statement she made wasn't about justice or equality or standing up for marginalized communities. The statement she made was about what happens when self-righteousness trumps human decency. When being right, or thinking you're right, becomes more important than being kind, than being fair, than being human. When a host forgets that the person sitting across from them is not a punching bag for their frustrations, not a prop for their performance of moral superiority, but a human being with feelings and struggles and complexities that can't be reduced to a social media presence or a series of public statements. Jennifer Lawrence walked onto that stage as a guest, as someone invited to share her work and her passion. She walked off as someone who had been pushed too far, dismissed too quickly, and judged too harshly by someone who claimed to care about justice, but showed none in her treatment of another person. Someone who preached about accountability, but demonstrated none of her own. Someone who demanded empathy for others, but extended none to the woman sitting right next to her. The cameras had captured it all. Every word spoken in anger or pain. Every expression of hurt or defiance. Every moment of escalation. Every point where things could have been pulled back but weren't. And now, the world would see exactly what happens when a talk show interview goes catastrophically wrong. When professionalism gives way to personal attacks. When entertainment becomes cruelty. When a host becomes an antagonist. A villain in a drama of her own creation. When a conversation becomes a confrontation. When dialogue becomes a diatribe. And when 44 seconds of hostility, of poorly disguised contempt, leads to one of the most dramatic, most painful, most unforgettable exits in the entire history of daytime television.